It does not start with a bang. Hollywood trained you to expect an explosion, a flash in the sky, or cars crashing into each other all at once. That is theatre. The reality of a winter EMP is the sound of a furnace blower motor spinning down and clicking off. It is the silence of the refrigerator compressor shuddering to a halt. You are sitting in your living room, maybe watching the game or scrolling your phone on Wi-Fi, and suddenly the ambient hum of civilization just cuts out. You look out the window. The streetlights are dead. The neighbour's house is dark. You check your breaker box, assuming it is just you. It is not just you. It is the entire grid, from the substation to the interconnects 3 states over. And unlike a summer blackout where you just sweat, the temperature outside is 10 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping. The clock has started on a 30-day siege, and your house just stopped being a shelter and started becoming a tomb. Most people will freeze to death waiting for a repair truck that is never coming. We saw a preview of this, Texas, February 2021. The grid came within minutes of a total catastrophic collapse that would have taken months to black start. Millions lost power in sub-zero conditions. People burned their furniture. They died of carbon monoxide poisoning in their garages trying to stay warm. And that was just a storm. The hardware was intact, the fuel lines just froze. Now, layer an EMP on top of that. An electromagnetic pulse or a massive geomagnetic disturbance does not just stop the fuel, it fries the extra high voltage transformers that move the power. We are talking about custom-built hardware that takes 18 months to manufacture and weighs 400 tons. If those go, there is no rerouting the power. There is no flipping a switch. You are looking at a grid-down winter that lasts not for 3 days, but for 30 days minimum. And in that scenario, the cold is a predator that does not sleep. Let's walk through the first 24 hours. Meet Mark. Mark is a suburban dad. He has a mortgage, 2 kids, and a pantry with 3 boxes of pasta and some stale crackers. When the power cuts at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday, Mark does what everyone does. He waits. He assumes a transformer blew down the street. He lights a few candles, makes it a game for the kids, and wraps them in blankets. He checks his phone. No signal. That is odd, he thinks, but maybe the cell tower is down too. He does not fill the bathtub with water. He does not consolidate the family into one room. He leaves the doors to the bedrooms open. He lets the residual heat in the walls bleed out into the freezing night. By 3 a.m, the house is 50 degrees. By 6 a.m, he wakes up seeing his breath. The water in the toilet bowl has a thin film of ice. Mark just lost the most critical battle of the survival timeline, the battle against denial. He wasted the thermal mass of his home because he thought the cavalry was coming. Here is the math Mark ignored. A modern home is basically a tent made of drywall and glass. Without active heat input, it wants to reach equilibrium with the outside temperature. If it is 10 degrees outside, your uninsulated living room will be dangerous within 12 hours. Your survival priority in the first hour is not weapons, it is insulation. You need to shrink your world. You pick one room, preferably one with few windows and on the south side. You build a fort inside that room. You hang blankets over the doorways. You duct tape bubble wrap or plastic over the windows. You are creating a microclimate. If you do not do this immediately, your body burns calories just trying to maintain 98.6 degrees. You are burning your internal fuel reserves before you even touch your food supply. And remember, shivering is a desperate act. It is your body screaming that it is losing the war. If your children are shivering on night 1, you are already failing them. Most of you listening to this think you are ready. You have a few cases of water in the garage and a camping stove. But let me ask you, do you know exactly how many calories you have on hand right now? Not a guess, a number. If the grid stays down for 30 days and it is 10 degrees outside, your caloric needs jump by 40% just to stay warm. That case of granola bars you think is a week of food? That is 2 days of fuel for a shivering teenager. Do not guess with your family's lives. I want you to go to protocolsurvival.com. We built a free tool called the Survival Score. You plug in your family size, your climate, and your inventory, and it tells you exactly when you starve. It is brutal, it is honest, and it is necessary. Stop hoping you have enough. Go get your score and see the math for yourself. Day 3. The temperature inside Mark's house is now 28 degrees. The water stopped flowing yesterday. The municipal pumps run on electricity and their backup generators either failed or ran out of diesel. Mark hears a sound like a gunshot from the master bathroom. It is the PVC piping shattering inside the wall. The water inside expanded as it froze and tore the plumbing apart. Now, even if the grid comes back, his house is flooded and ruined. But the immediate problem is thirst. His kids are asking for water. He melts snow on the propane grill outside, but he does not realise that snow is mostly air. It takes a massive amount of fuel to melt enough snow for a litre of water, and he is burning through his limited propane supply rapidly. He gives the water to his daughter. She complains it tastes like dirt. 2 hours later, she is vomiting. Mark didn't boil it long enough because he was trying to save fuel. Now she is dehydrated in a freezing house, and the clock is ticking faster. I can hear some of you typing the comment right now. This is fear-mongering. The National Guard would roll in with water trucks and generators. We pay taxes for this. Let's dismantle that fantasy. In a localised disaster, like a hurricane, yes, the Guard converges from other states. But an EMP is a wide area event. The neighbouring states are dark too. The trucks that move the Guard? They need diesel. The pumps that dispense the diesel need electricity. If the grid is fried, the fuel is locked underground. Furthermore, modern military vehicles rely on sensitive electronics. If the pulse was strong enough to kill the grid, it likely bricked a significant portion of the transport fleet. And even if they get moving, who do they save first? The hospital? The nursing home? The air traffic control centre? You, in your cul-de-sac, are priority number 10,000. In a grid-down winter scenario, the government is not coming to save you. They are struggling to save themselves. Let's talk about the silent killer. It isn't the cold, it's poop. By day 4, the toilets don't flush. The sewer lines may be frozen or backed up because lift stations are down. Most people will just keep using the toilet, letting it pile up. That is a biological weapon in your bathroom. Or they go outside, exposing themselves to the cold. In a survival situation, hygiene is discipline. You need a bucket system. Heavy-duty contractor bags, kitty litter or sawdust, and a sealable lid. You do not mix liquid and solid waste if you can avoid it. It smells worse and is harder to manage. If you get lazy here, you get dysentery. Dysentery in a grid-down winter is a death sentence. You are already dehydrated. Diarrhea will finish you off in 48 hours. You need to treat hand washing like a religious ritual, even when water is scarce. Use sanitizer, use wipes, use whatever you have, but do not touch your face or your food with dirty hands. 1 week in, the shock has worn off, replaced by a dull, aching panic. Mark looks out the window. The snow is grey with soot. Why? because 3 houses down, someone tried to burn treated lumber in their fireplace to stay warm. The toxic smoke is hanging in the stagnant air. Across the street, the nice elderly couple, the Johnsons, haven't been seen in 3 days. Mark knows what happened. They probably turned on their gas oven to heat the kitchen and went to sleep. Carbon monoxide is odourless. They just didn't wake up. The neighbourhood is starting to scavenge. A group of men is walking down the centre line of the road, checking cars for supplies. Mark locks his door, but a lock is just a suggestion to a desperate man. He realises he has no way to communicate with the outside world. No news, no police scanners, just the silence and the smoke. He feels isolated, and that isolation breeds paranoia. He is clutching a baseball bat, terrified to fall asleep. In a blackout, information is as valuable as ammunition. If you don't know what is happening, your brain fills the gaps with nightmares. You need a battery-operated or hand-crank radio, but not just for music. You need NOAA weather bands. You need to know if a blizzard is coming on top of the blackout. Better yet, a ham radio scanner. You don't need a license to listen. Listening tells you where the fires are, where the roadblocks are, and if relief is actually coming. If you are totally blind, you might bug out right into a kill zone, or hunker down when you should be evacuating. Mark is sitting in the dark guessing. A prepared survivor is listening to the local emergency frequencies, mapping the threat. Do not rely on your cell phone. Even if the towers have backup batteries, they drain in 48 hours. After that, the phone is just a glowing brick full of family photos you can't back up. 2 weeks. Mark's family is out of food. They ate the pasta on day 4. They finished the crackers on day 6. For the last week, they have been splitting a jar of peanut butter found in the back of the cupboard. His son is lethargic, barely moving from under the pile of coats. This is where the guilt sets in. It is a physical weight in Mark's chest. He looks at his son and knows he failed him. He considers looting. He looks at the house next door. The family there left on day 2. Maybe they left food? Mark forces the back door open. The house is freezing, silent. He tears through the kitchen. Nothing. The pantry is bare. He checks the bedrooms. He finds a half-empty bottle of Gatorade and drinks it right there, guilt washing over him because he didn't bring it back to his kids. The hunger is turning him into an animal. He returns home empty-handed, and the look in his wife's eyes breaks him. They are starving, and the cold makes the hunger hurt physically. I see the comments. He'll just hunt. I have a deer rifle. Listen to me. In a suburban or even semi-rural area, the game population will be wiped out in 72 hours. Every guy with a 30-06 has the same idea. You are not going to be tracking a buck through the silent woods. You are going to be walking into a crossfire of desperate neighbours shooting at squirrels. And let's say you bag a deer. Do you know how to field dress it in 0-degree weather with numb fingers? Do you know how to preserve 100 pounds of meat when you have no freezer? The smell of cooking meat will travel for a mile in the cold, thin air. You are ringing a dinner bell for every starving person in the zip code. Hunting is a long-term strategy for deep wilderness survival, not a contingency plan for a suburban blackout. If you didn't stack calories before the lights went out, you are not going to shoot your way out of starvation. Security in a grid-down winter is about layering. You don't want a gunfight, you want deterrence. The first layer is light discipline. If you have a lantern, it stays in the interior room. Blackout curtains are mandatory. If your house looks dark and cold like the rest, you are less of a target. The second layer is noise discipline. No generators running at night. That hum is a beacon. The third layer is physical barriers. Reinforce your door jambs now, before the event. 3-inch screws in the strike plate. A door club. You want to make it noisy and difficult to enter. If someone tries to kick in your door, you want them to fail on the first try, giving you time to react. But the most important security measure is community. You can't stay awake 24/7. You need a watch rotation with trusted neighbours. A lone wolf falls asleep and wakes up dead. A pack survives. You need to identify your allies before the crisis, not during it. 3 weeks. The adrenaline is long gone. Now it is just misery. Mark's wife, Sarah, has a cough. It started as a tickle, but in the damp, freezing air of the house, it has settled into her chest. It sounds wet. Pneumonia. In the old world, this was a trip to urgent care and a course of antibiotics. In the EMP winter, it is a probable fatality. She is shivering violently, not just from the cold, but from fever. Mark has no medicine. He used the last of the Tylenol for a headache a week ago. He tries to keep her warm, giving her his share of the blankets, meaning he is now exposed to the 40-degree room temperature. He holds her hand, listening to the rattle in her lungs, knowing that modern medicine has retreated 100 years into the past. He prays for the lights to come on, for the furnace to roar to life, but there is only the wind howling outside. The grid isn't just power, it's life support, and the plug has been pulled. If you are dependent on a pharmacy, you are vulnerable. You need a deep medical kit, not a boo-boo kit from Walmart. I am talking about fish antibiotics if you know how to dose them, or legally obtaining emergency prescriptions through services that offer them now. You need a pulse oximeter to check oxygen levels. You need expectorants, antidiarrheals, and heavy-duty painkillers. But more than gear, you need knowledge. Can you diagnose pneumonia versus bronchitis? Do you know how to treat a fever when you can't cool the patient down too much because the room is freezing? Cold weather suppresses the immune system. Minor cuts heal slower. Your body is diverting blood flow to the core, leaving extremities vulnerable to infection. Every scratch is a potential septic event. You need to treat injuries aggressively, immediately. Once infection sets in, without a hospital, the clock runs out fast. Imagine Mark had antibiotics. Would he know the dosage? Imagine he had a radio. Would he know the frequencies? In a grid-down scenario, the internet is gone. The cloud is vapour. All those survival PDFs you saved to your Google Drive, inaccessible. Wikipedia? Gone. YouTube tutorials on how to fix a pipe? Gone. You are left with what is in your head and what is on your physical device. This is why I built the offline mode into the Protocol Survival app. It downloads the entire core database, medical manuals, frequency lists, tactical guides, directly to your phone's internal storage. Even if the cell towers are melted slag, if you can charge your phone with a solar panel, you have the library, you have the brain. Do not rely on the cloud. The cloud blows away. Go to protocolsurvival.com and secure your offline data now, before the screen goes black. Day 28. The silence is different now. It is the silence of a graveyard. The looting has stopped because there is nothing left to loot and people are too weak to move. Mark is sitting by the window, staring at the snow. He has lost 20 pounds. His face is gaunt, covered in a patchy beard. Sarah is still alive, barely, sleeping 18 hours a day. The kids don't play anymore, they just sit. Mark realises that even if the power came back on right now, they are broken. He saw things this month he can never unsee. He threatened a neighbour with a tyre iron over a can of peaches. He ignored the screams from down the street one night because he was too afraid to open the door. He survived, technically, but the man he was 30 days ago is dead. He looks at his hands. They are cracked and bleeding from the cold. He wonders if civilization was just a dream. Some of you are thinking, 30 days is too long. They'd fix it faster. Let's look at the hardware. A large power transformer, or LPT, is the size of a house. It is custom built. We do not have a stockpile of spares in the US. We import most of them. If an EMP creates a voltage spike that melts the copper windings inside 50 of these units across the Eastern Interconnect, we are not talking about a repair, we are talking about replacement. And you can't transport a 400-ton transformer on a road that is covered in ice and blocked by abandoned cars. The logistics of recovery are a nightmare. 30 days is the optimistic scenario. 30 days is, we got the local substations patched enough to rotate power. The reality could be months. If you are preparing for 3 days, you are preparing for a blizzard. If you are preparing for an EMP, you need to be thinking in seasons, not days. We have to address the EMP-specific variable. In a normal ice storm, your generator works. Your car works. In a high-altitude nuclear detonation, the E1 pulse hits the semiconductor junctions in microchips. It creates a voltage overstress that punches microscopic holes in the silicon. Anything with a chip is suspect. Your modern inverter generator might be bricked. Your truck with the electronic fuel injection? Dead. Your LED flashlights with the complex driver boards? Dark. This is why you need vintage gear or shielded gear. A 1980s diesel tractor has no computer. It runs. A simple Coleman lantern uses fuel and a mantle, no chips. It works. If your survival plan relies on complex electronics, you are betting against physics. You need mechanical backups. You need analog tools. A wind-up clock. A mercury thermometer. A manual can opener. High-tech fails, low-tech survives. The final supply you run out of is hope. You need a routine. In a 30-day darkness, unstructured time is poison. You need to run your household like a military unit. Reveille at 0700. Hygiene check. Inventory check. School time for the kids. Yes, school. Read books. Do math on paper. It keeps their brains engaged and stops the panic. Assign tasks. Someone is responsible for checking the window seals. Someone is responsible for the water count. Purpose combats despair. If you just sit and wait to freeze, you will freeze. You have to actively fight the entropy. Play cards. Tell stories. Keep the morale up. It sounds soft, but I tell you, I have seen tough men crumble because they couldn't handle the waiting. And I have seen grandmothers pull a family through because they kept everyone busy. Your mind is the weapon. Keep it sharp. Day 31, 4 p.m. A street lamp down the block buzzes. It glows a dim orange, then flickers out. Then steady. Inside Mark's house, the fridge gives a choked rattle and starts to hum. The lights in the kitchen blaze on, blindingly bright after a month of candlelight. The furnace blower engages. Mark stands up. He doesn't cheer. He walks to the thermostat and sees the numbers light up. 38 degrees. He turns it to 60. He walks to the sink and tries the tap. Nothing. The pipes are still busted. But the power is back. They survived. He looks at his wife. She is pale, thin, but she is breathing. They made it. But as he looks out at the illuminated street, he sees the ambulance lights flashing at the Johnsons' house. He sees the broken windows on the minivan. The grid is back, but the illusion of safety is gone forever. We live in a machine that requires constant inputs to keep us alive. We have outsourced our warmth, our water, and our safety to a copper web that is incredibly fragile. The EMP winter is not a sci-fi monster. It is a stress test for a system that is already cracking. When you prepare, You are not just hoarding beans. You are buying yourself the ability to remain human when the machine stops. You are buying the right to look your children in the eye and say, "I have this," instead of, "I'm sorry." The grid does not keep the lights on, people. The grid keeps the chaos back. And when the grid goes, you are the only thing standing between your family and the abyss. Train accordingly. Let's circle back to a specific logistic that kills people. Water storage in freezing conditions. If you store 50-gallon drums in your garage and it hits 0 degrees, that water turns to ice. Ice expands. It will split a plastic drum. It will crack a glass jug. You need headspace. Leave 10% of the container empty. Better yet, keep your water inside the thermal envelope of your warm room if possible. If you must store it outside or in a freezing garage, insulate the barrels. Build a box around them with rigid foam. And remember, frozen water is useless unless you can melt it. You need a way to chip ice out of that barrel. A crowbar? A chisel? Don't rely on spigots, they freeze first. Store water in smaller containers you can bring inside to thaw. 1-gallon jugs are superior to a 50-gallon drum in a freeze because you can manage them. Adapt your storage to the threat. I mentioned the Johnsons dying of carbon monoxide. Let's get technical. You need a battery-powered CO detector. Not the one hardwired into your ceiling, that might not work, or the battery backup might be dead. Buy a dedicated portable unit with a digital readout. Place it at sleeping height. CO mixes with air, but you want to know what you are breathing. If you are using a Mr. Buddy heater or a kerosene heater, crack a window. Yes, you lose heat, but you keep oxygen. The equation is simple. Air exchange equals life. Sealed room plus combustion equals death. Never ever use a gas oven to heat your house. The combustion is not clean enough. Never run a generator in a garage, even with the door open. The wind can push the exhaust back in. If you feel a headache, dizziness, or nausea, get out immediately. You won't smell it coming. In a winter blackout, fuel is for heat, not for boiling pasta. If your food storage requires 20 minutes of boiling water to become edible, you have a problem. You are wasting precious propane or butane. You need ready-to-eat calories. Peanut butter, canned meats, crackers, dried fruit, MREs with chemical heaters. If you have freeze-dried meals, use a thermos. Boil water once, pour it in the bag, put the bag in a thermos or wrap it in a towel. Let it sit for 20 minutes. It will rehydrate without active fire. This is called thermal cooking. It saves fuel. Also, focus on fats. Fats generate body heat during digestion. Olive oil, coconut oil. Add a spoonful to everything you eat. It's disgusting? Too bad, it's survival fuel. A skinny survivor freezes faster than a well-fed one. Finally, let's talk about soft skills. Who in your neighbourhood is a nurse? Who is a mechanic? Who has a wood stove? You need to know this now. In the first 72 hours, you should be making contact. Hey, we're okay, just checking in. Gauge their panic level. If they are freaking out, keep your distance. If they are calm, they might be an asset. You are building a tribe. But be careful, information leakage is dangerous. Do not tell people you have 6 months of food. Tell them you have enough for a few days, but you are worried. You may have appear slightly less prepared than you are. You want to be a partner, not a target. If you become the local grocery store, you will be overrun. If you become the local leader who helps organise security, you become indispensable. This timeline is not a prediction. It is a possibility, a dice roll. Every day the Sun interacts with our magnetosphere, the dice are rolled. Every day geopolitical tensions rise, the dice are rolled. You don't have to be paranoid, you just have to be ready. Check your kit, check your plan, get your family on the same page. Because when the sky goes dark, the time for preparation is over. The time for survival has begun. I'll see you downrange.